Arkansas isn't typically the state one would think of when it comes to big highways and major infrastructure. It's typically thought of as a stagnant southern state that's behind in many areas. When I'm traveling, friends and family will often contact me and ask where I am or where I'm going next. When I said Arkansas was next, the typical response was, oh. However, back in June, I had the pleasure of traveling around and seeing the state of things in Arkansas firsthand. Some of its small towns were shockingly abandoned. I saw more abandoned structures in Arkansas than any state I've seen so far. Now, there are several reasons for the stagnation and decline in many of these towns, but one thing of note is that Arkansas has big plans to build a shocking number of major roadways around the state. On this video, we're going to take a look at some of those planned projects, why and where they're being built, and when, if ever, the folks of Arkansas can expect them to be completed. Give the video a like if you enjoy it, and subscribe if you love it, and let's talk about some highways. So first we're going to kick things off with a banger, the big project, the superhighway itself, I-69. I-69 is planned to cut across some of the poorest, most desolate parts of Arkansas, as seen here on the map. Some towns directly impacted by this route include Arkansas City, Monticello, and El Dorado. Pine Bluff to the north will also be indirectly impacted by the completion of I-69 via future Interstate 530. Interstate 530 is to eventually continue south from Pine Bluff to meet I-69 in the Monticello area, making Pine Bluff a pass-through town on the interstate highway system rather than the current dead end that it is today. Currently, I-69 isn't signed yet anywhere in the state. However, the current two-lane bypass of Monticello, which is currently signed as US 278 bypass, is expected to eventually become a part of Interstate 69 once Arkansas gets the funding to build it. The premier project and likely most costly portion of I-69 in Arkansas will be the Charles W. Dean Bridge, which will carry the roadway over the Mississippi River near Arkansas City. The bridge has actually been approved for funding by the U.S. Congress since 2009, but yet no funding has actually been provided, nor has there been any movement as far as construction along its approaches, nor on the bridge itself. Next up, we head to the capital city of Little Rock, where we have future I-57. I-57 currently exists all the way through Illinois up to Chicago and ends at I-55 in Missouri. In Arkansas, currently the US 67 corridor north of I-40 is slated to become Interstate 57. Arkansas has already built this corridor up to interstate standards between Little Rock and Walnut Ridge, so it's a full-fledged, high-quality freeway, patiently awaiting its blue shield. North of Walnut Ridge to the Missouri state line, there are still around 47 miles of US 67 that needs to be upgraded to a freeway before any signage can take place. Currently, this is a two-lane roadway, so Arkansas has its work cut out for it here. Either way, the I-57 shields won't be popping up in Arkansas until Missouri upgrades its portion of US 67, which currently is a mix of freeway and expressway segments, along with a two-lane portion immediately north of the Arkansas state line. The other major project going on in Arkansas is happening on the western side of the state, and that is Interstate 49. Interstate 49 currently runs from the Louisiana state line up to Texarkana, and the northern segment runs from Fort Smith through the northwest Arkansas cities and into Missouri, providing regional connections to Kansas City, Shreveport, and eventually to New Orleans. Between Fort Smith and Texarkana, Arkansas faces a gargantuan task of upgrading the current US 71 corridor to a full four-lane freeway through some very difficult terrain. I-49 will travel through yet another very isolated area, bringing new life to towns such as Ashdown, DeQueen, Y-City, and Mena. The potential timeline for completing I-49 through this area, let's just say if you were born after 2010, then with any luck you might be cruising past Y-City on I-49 one day. The final part of the state that I want to talk about, the most happening part of the state, Northwest Arkansas. Now, when I visited Northwest Arkansas back in June, I noticed that it looked quite different from the rest of the state. The cities were much more vibrant, lots of recent and upcoming construction projects, and an overall feeling of more wealth and prosperity in this area. Northwest Arkansas appears to be actually growing similar to the other major southern metros, the lone exception in comparison to most other Arkansas metros. Now, the first thing you'll notice about the Northwest Arkansas area is that it is a collection of four similarly sized cities, with no one city dominating over the others. The development also generally follows the Interstate 49 corridor, with pretty limited east-west mobility, or any bypasses or loop highways. US 71B serves as the surface route along which a large amount of the commercial areas of the cities are located. With all the growth here, what does Arkansas plan to do to manage? Let's take a look. To address east-west mobility, we have US 412. Currently, US 412 serves as the primary east-west major arterial for this region. Back in 2021, Arkansas representatives introduced a bill in Congress seeking to designate US 412 between I-49 here in Arkansas and I-35 in Noble County, Oklahoma, as a future interstate corridor. Though not yet approved, this designation would likely require a completely new alignment in the area on the new Siloam Springs bypass as well as Tontitown. Between the state line and Tulsa, US 412 is at least 4 lanes and divided the whole way, but there are several grade intersections that would need to be removed for the interstate designation. Then after Tulsa, US 412 becomes the Cimarron Turnpike, which is already up to interstate standards all the way out to I-35. There is currently no official numbering for this route yet, though I-42 has been thrown around as a potential number, despite the disconnected future I-42 segment in North Carolina. Which seems pretty silly, seeing that I-46 and I-48 are still available, but oh well. Also on tap to increase east-west mobility in the area is a northern bypass around Springdale. This is already partially completed in the form of AR 612, and we can see the proposed full routing here. So back to the question originally posed by the video title. Why exactly is Arkansas building all of these new interstates? Well, in the case of I-49 and I-69, the motivations are mostly economic. Interstate 69's planned routing will pass through some of the poorest, most isolated parts of the state. Currently, the towns along the corridor are in a place of economic stagnation and population decline. In the post-Walmart, post-NAFTA America, it's a tough sell to attract major businesses and employers to areas that are so difficult to get to. When I visited Pine Bluff earlier this year, I opted not to continue down to check out Monticello and Arkansas City due to the sheer difficulty of accessing those areas from a time and convenience standpoint. I'm sure potential businesses feel the same, as it would be quite a challenge from a supply chain standpoint to move goods and people to those areas as things currently stand. If you zoom out and take a look at I-69's planned routing through Arkansas, you can see that from a purely destination standpoint, its path is already served by using I-40, I-30, and I-49 through the state. So the motivations for a separate highway are most certainly economic in hopes of potentially opening these isolated areas up for business. The case with I-49 is similar. Between Texarkana and Fort Smith, I-49 will travel through some very isolated, nearly forgotten Arkansas cities. I personally drove out to Y-City and from Y-City to Fort Smith while in the state, and I must say it was quite the exhausting journey, though the scenery was pretty pleasant in many places. I-49 isn't just any old highway either. When or if it is completed, it will form a part of a major cross-country corridor moving goods from the Canadian border via I-25 all the way to the major port city of New Orleans on the Gulf Coast. Looking at the routing, it's safe to assume that Arkansas hopes that I-49's completion through the state will open these isolated areas up for major opportunities that will come along with being on such an important corridor. After all, the first ingredient to any type of growth or development is access. I-57 likely has similar motivations. It will benefit the capital city of Little Rock by giving it a direct interstate connection to Chicago and a connection to St. Louis via I-55. Now, I didn't have time to personally check out Northeast Arkansas, but looking at the numbers, it appears that the cities and towns along future I-57 are already doing pretty decent in terms of growth. Plus, the road is already up to interstate standards up to Walnut Ridge, so they're already getting some of the mobility benefits of the highway, despite not yet having that coveted blue shield. Things look like they're progressing up here a bit better than the southeastern part of the state. The motivations for Northwest Arkansas are a bit different. This part of the state is already growing at a rapid rate. The university that fuels the educated workforce is already in place. The major corporations with high-paying jobs are already here. In the case of the NWA, Arkansas is trying to keep the infrastructure up to par with the population growth. When I was in the area, you could already see many arterial roads where congestion was occurring even outside of peak hours. College Avenue in Fayetteville was a big one, along with much of the US 71B corridor through the rest of the cities. The planned east-west interstate and bypass are proposals that will help improve traffic flow and get some folks off these local surface roads. Northwest Arkansas is posting some of the insane growth rates that other booming southern metros have, so it will be interesting to see if Arkansas has the ability to keep up with this level of growth, or if the region will become a traffic nightmare. But there it is, guys, why the state of Arkansas is building so many interstates. Have you traveled around any of these cities or towns that are expected to get new interstates? Do you think that they can help revive the dying towns in rural Arkansas? Do you think Arkansas will be able to keep up with the growth that's hitting the northwestern part of the state? Which of these highways do you think we'll see built first? Personally, my money is on I-57 first and I-69 last. But let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one, coming soon to a town near you.